Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about scheduling. Now, in a previous installment on the channel, we talked about subbing and how you could get work doing that, and I mentioned being available as much as you could. Your scheduling is going to work the same way, but this is more so for, well, any kind of job you have. I mean, you have to know your schedule, but it plays an important factor in how you're booked and how often. You might have a full 8-hour day for months, and then all of a sudden 4 students quit and you're down to 6 or 5 hours on that same day. So you got to be aware of that and just deal with it as it comes, because there's nothing you can do about it. It is a circumstance of this kind of work. Nobody likes it, but it is reality. So when it comes to your scheduling, just know your schedule inside and out. It's not hard to do when you've got a cell phone. You can plug all your scheduling into on the calendar. You don't need a notebook or a pocket planner or whatever they called those things before we had smartphones. Just make sure you know whoever's booking your lessons knows what days you're available, or even if you're not teaching on certain days, make sure they know, if, like, say if you want an extra day at the store that you're teaching at, let them know that you're willing to teach on that day so they can potentially start filling up the day with students for you. If they don't know you're available, they're not going to book you. So you have to be very communicative with them all the time about that. So try to be accommodating as much as possible, depending on what the students want to do. But you don't want to be driving a decent distance or potentially turn down work for 2 students, unless they're 2 really good paying students, or maybe it's worth it to try to keep that day and build it back up again. That's something that's up to you, but can't be stressed enough that there's really no excuse for not knowing what your schedule is. Usually as a musician, your gigs and your rehearsals and things of that nature are planned out pretty good amount ahead of time, depending. Every situation is a little different. So the next thing that you want to make sure about the scheduling is that you understand how a lot of people view their own schedule. This has really nothing to do with your schedule, but it's something you have to be more stern about. And you don't have to be like blunt or off-putting, but you would be really surprised. You won't be if you've been doing lessons for a long time, because this won't shock you anymore. But it is ridiculous how difficult it is for people to remember the day and time of their lesson. But just keep in mind that the scheduling can be really strange, and it can be irritating. That's the biggest irritation, besides the occasional whiny student or the ones that don't practice, which are most of them. But that's the biggest pain, because it's not in a constant state of fluctuation, but it can be sometimes. There are exceptions to where the scheduling can work out great if you have the availability. Like one time I was at a private client's house, and the private client who lived just down the street called me and said, "Aren't you supposed to be here today?" And I wasn't supposed to be there that day, but since I was already in the neighborhood, they paid me for a normal day of lessons, so I made an extra $110 that day I wasn't planning on, because the mom just had a brain fart, like a normal human being might do, because she's got 4 kids. She's busier than most people. So that worked out in my favor. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll fit you in today, no problem. So sometimes those little happy accidents happen and everybody wins. So that's where being flexible and the client appreciating it will do you a lot of favor, because they will really appreciate that. A mom with 4 kids is one of the most stressed people on earth. So make that woman happy, especially if she's paying you well. The benefit of working at a store or a school is there's somebody there who books your lessons for you. So you don't control your own scheduling, other than letting them know what days you can or can't be there. That's a blessing, because they deal with the headaches of all of that. And let them know you appreciate them, because they make your job much easier, because it takes the stress off of you. Be prepared for that to happen. Most of the kids you teach, even if they're in 1st grade through 12th grade, they're going to be heavily overbooked, and sports is going to be something that you have to work your schedule around. But just be prepared for that, because I don't bet unless I can win, and I guarantee you that's something you're going to have to contend with. So keep it in mind. It's a thing. But to summarize this lesson, so we've got, just make sure you know your availability and your scheduling at all times. Be aware of how overbooked most of your students' schedules and lives are. If it feels like they're being difficult, they're just scatterbrained. Even though the phone tells them you have this appointment at this time, some of them still don't understand that concept, and they still call and want to know what time their lesson was, or they're just busier than normal that week. So just be nice and accommodating. It has nothing to do with you, even though I don't get it either. And then the sports thing, that's going to be a thing, but it could be any additional activity that they have going on that week or that month. But I think it's important enough, obviously, to bring up here, because I'm just trying to give you the most accurate information I can based on my own experience of being a music teacher, especially in a major metropolitan area like LA, where I'm from, small town Indiana, people who are busy back home, the people out here make the busiest people I know from back home look like they don't have anything to do. So it is a definite thing. So thanks for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and I'll see you for the next one. Thanks. Peace out.